Welcome. Nice to see you all here in my favorite city. It's the Athens of America, so having a Greek American governor for 12 years wasn't a bad idea. This is going to be blessedly brief. You're busy, you've got a lot to do, and I'm in my 28th year as a professor of public policy at Northeastern University. And this happens to be the last week of the semester, so I've got dozens and dozens of students who are dying to see me about final papers and that kind of stuff, and you've got important work to do, so I'll keep this relatively brief. It's also a way to escape requests for interviews about President Bush. I've been overwhelmed with the press, and I've tried to not escape, but say what I have to say about him. And may I simply say this, we were rivals, he beat me, and I wasn't wild about the campaign he ran, but I must say this, folks, George H.W. Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev did something very, very important. They sat down together as rivals, and they ended as friends and collaborators in ending the Cold War. And I think it's very important that we recognize President Bush for that and recognize how important that was and is, because we're in danger of sliding into another Cold War, and that's the last thing in the world we need, the last thing in the world that the world needs. In any event, thanks to a remarkable native of Vietnam, Tuan Nguyen, who was the founder of the internet in Vietnam, ran that system for 10 years, developed an electronic newspaper as part of that effort in Vietnam, and was a senior editor of that electronic newspaper, which, among other things, took on the government on the subject of corruption. And he did so for 10 years, and at last, finally, the government of Vietnam said, thanks, get yourself a new editor and get out of town. And fortunately for us, he decided to come to Boston and has become a good friend and comrade in all of that we're doing. And it was his idea to create something called the Boston Global Forum and asked me to chair it. And that's how I'm here. I'm not a technology guy. I grew up in the town of Brookline, just west of Boston. I was a pretty good student, a pretty good athlete. Wanted to go to a small college, and I ended up at a place called Swarthmore College, just outside of Philadelphia. I'd never been out of New England in those days. You didn't jump on a plane and go places. And it was the first time, didn't know a Quaker from a shaker. And it was the first time I'd been out of New England. But it was a very, very interesting experience. And because I had taken biology and chemistry in high school and done well, I figured I'd start with physics. Emerging with a charitable D in physics, I decided I wasn't going to be a doctor, and I wasn't going to go into science, and I was having a great time in political science and economics and history, and the rest, as they say, is history. But always interested in the interaction of technology and ethics and standards. And quite frankly, I'm really very concerned. We have this great information technology that's really transformed the world in many ways, and we're spending billions on cyber warfare. And the last thing in the world, it seems to me, we need is to develop AI and do so in a way that we hope will further expand the quality of life of all of our people and of peoples all over the world. And it's one of the reasons why our organization is releasing today, and I hope all of you will get a copy of it, a report on ethics and AI, and the kinds of standards that we should be demanding of ourselves and people all over the world and the AI community as we develop these remarkable technologies. So I hope you'll take a good look at that report, and I hope you'll begin to work with us. We plan to do as much as we possibly can to encourage international collaboration on this. And it must be international collaboration so that we have technologies that work for us in the best sense and don't create additional problems. And as you heard, we're going to be working intensively on this, a series of conferences, both here and abroad, and doing our very best to make this a technology and a form of progress, which really is a form of progress and doesn't create even more problems for society and for all of us as well. In any event, we welcome you to this. Read the report. Let us have your input, and let's work together on this. It's very, very important, and it's got to be done on an international basis. I don't think there's any question about that. But there are lots of good minds and lots of good people, and I'm looking at many of them here, who can work with us on this, and I hope you will do that. In any event, have a great time in this great city. It's come a long way. I hate to tell you what Massachusetts and New England looked like when I first became governor in 1974, but they were calling us the New Appalachia, which gives you some sense of what was going on here. Our industrial base was crumbling. We really didn't know where we were going, what we were doing, and we were the Frost Belt and other places were the Sun Belt. And if it hadn't been for technology, we wouldn't be the success that we are today. So we respect that and welcome it, but we want it to work in the best way for all people. And that's really our message and the hope that we can engage all of you in this so that we don't go down the wrong road and find ourselves with more problems than we really ought to have. Great to have you in town. Thank you, and look forward to working with you. Appreciate it.